let's bring you now the news review, and we're pleased to be joined by Victoria Bright. She is an entrepreneur and legal practitioner and former legal advisor to former President John Agyekum Kufuor. And you remember the nickname of John Kufuor? He was nicknamed the Gentle Giant. Yeah, I remember so well because when I was young and he came to Aguna Nkwanta and this man raised a hand, I was like, wow, this is a giant. Okay, we're also looking forward to be joined by Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. Joining us via Zoom will be Mustafa Gbande, Deputy Director of Operations at the Presidency and also Deputy General Secretary of the governing NDC. Well, so good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
I love women like this. You know, she is a legal practitioner, and Sweetie will one day become a legal practitioner as well. So you have a mentor here.
Are you interested in the law?
You know what I'm interested in. Right.
Anyway.
So before we get into the newspapers, like we do, you have about 2 minutes to walk us through your reflections on a topical issue.
I think what is on my mind today is really the National Service Secretariat, the scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling. The details of the fraud, the details of the theft, it's just, you know, they are just shocking. I just can't believe that people who have been put in such a position of responsibility will use their intellect to actually steal from the public purse. I mean, you've been put in a position of great responsibility to the youth of this nation. And some of these youth, they are actually under mental distress. You know, they've completed school, they can't find jobs, and youth unemployment is one of the most serious problems we have in this country, and successive governments have been trying to tackle it. So you've been put in this position, and then you decide that instead of focusing on the job at hand, you're going to use your whatever intellect God has blessed you with to basically steal from the public purse, steal from these poor young people. I don't know who did what, and I guess when the court case is done, we will eventually find out who did what. But I say to those who are culpable, that shame on you. I just want to say to them that shame on you, because what example are you trying to set for young people in this country, for the youth? I mean, you see, these are the people who give politicians a bad name. Did you actually just go into politics to go and have a position to steal? Because that's what it looks like. That is what it looks like. So shame on you.
Shame on them.
And one more question. I want to ask them, where is your sense of self-respect? Where is it? Where is it? Seriously, they must never, whoever is found to be culpable, obviously everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Sure.
But once you have faced trial in a court of competent jurisdiction and you are found to be culpable, you must never be allowed to hold any public office in this country again. Shame on you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, some thoughts there on this NSS issue, and I'm sure the court process will reveal a lot of things that we are yet to know. So
it's just very sad.
We await that particular trial. Anyway, the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Haruna Mohammed, has joined us. Haruna, good morning.
Good morning.
Trust you good?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay, like we do, we'll give you 2 minutes to tell us what's on your heart. Victoria has given us what has been troubling her over the weekend and now. So what is it that you want to talk about?
Oh, what is on my heart is that there has been media prosecution and abandonment of prosecution in the law court, which is very worrying. Lawyers who have been trained to go to court to ascertain and make sure that persons who have been able to run foul of the law have decided to be prosecuting people in the media cycles through press conferences. It's very worrying. This is not the democracy that we have set for ourselves. If anybody is found culpable of the law, go to the court And the kind of arrest that has been made, this is not the kind of country that we handed over to our brothers in the NDC. But they should not think that they will cow us to go back and stop talking. We won't, because even 100 years, they will leave power, and another party will surely come.
Do I get a sense that you think the NDC are oppressing your...
Yes.
Suppressing your voice?
Yes.
But, you know, many Ghanaians will disagree with you.
But
in the quest to be an active opposition, you've actually been very vocal on every step that the government takes.
Yes, that's why I'm also a Ghanaian. So if many Ghanaians, if I'm a single Ghanaian, and I have the right to speech, I have the right to complain.
But Haruna, if the Deputy AG is giving updates on cases, does that mean media prosecution?
Are they
because he constantly used the word alleged.
Kojo, did we bring him to come and be giving us alleged case? He should go to court. That is why he's paid. He should stop, put the evidence together, go to court and prosecute them. Don't come and then all the time. How many media?
The government, this administration came on the back of transparency, accountability, jobs. It falls into their category of transparency and accountability to lead the public on in terms of what they're doing. So we see that they're not just sitting down.
It's not doing anything. You have evidence. You've gathered the information. You have dossier on persons. Go to court. He has always come to the media to report. Yes, we know that the media is a vehicle that is used to transcend information to the Ghanaian citizens. But he should go to court.
Okay.
What are the updates? He should give us update per court cases. If this government is interested in ensuring that they bring people to justice, somebody has been prosecuted in a competent court of jurisdiction. The person is living abroad. You have decided to come and remove people from the court, discontinue court cases. Somebody has been prosecuted already, found culpable of the law. You are not interested to get the person to face the law in the country.
Okay.
You are there now going about reading and then telling us that this is the cases that go and prosecute them. That is what we want.
That makes your 2 minutes. And let us get into the newspaper. I want to start now with mine, which is the Daily Graphic. On the front page, State Media Eye financial relief. Minister appeals to Parliament for tax exemptions. And Junior Graphic essay workshops take off. I used to love participating in those essays. Junior Graphic, yeah. And Zoomlion clarifies status of YEA contract. Remember that contract about over decades, and that petition from Manasseh Azure petitioning the president. In fact, the president has responded that the contract will not be renewed. I don't know. We'll get into that and see exactly what the point they're trying to make. Professor Ama proposes 5 elements to tackle galamsey. And let me get into the news now. I want to start with the State Media Eye financial relief. So the Minister of State for Government Communications, Felix Kwachofosu, has called on the Ministry of Finance and the GRA to heed the request for tax exemptions for state media houses to enable them to continue providing essential public services. When you go on, he talks about how GBC owes about a little over 18 million, and out of that, about 15 million and a little over is owed to ECG, and about 5 million owed to NETCO. And so these are some of the issues that they are citing for which they're requesting tax exemptions and some sort of relief for state-owned media enterprises. I'll add 2 more stories and then we can begin the conversation. On the Ablekuma North results, suit at Supreme Court injuncts collation of parliamentary results. That is according to Alhaji Muntaka. So that is Interior Minister. So an application filed at the Supreme Court has injuncted the Ministry of the Interior and the National Election Security Task Force from providing security for the Electoral Commission to collate the Ablekuma North parliamentary election results. I see that you're scoffing. I'll come to you in a bit. So the Interior Minister, Alhaji Mubarak Mohammed Muntaka, made this known on the floor of Parliament last Wednesday, and the response followed an urgent question filed by the New Patriotic Party, Member of Parliament, Okchere Daniel Nana Ado Kenneth, on the specific arrangements the ministry had made to ensure the provision of adequate security for the collation and declaration of the Ablekuma North constituency. And one last, let me stay in the courts now, because the Supreme Court has overturned contempt conviction of Aquitia MP. That's another topical one. The Supreme Court has quashed the Koforidua High Court's conviction of NX Yakumi, the New Patriotic Party's Member of Parliament for Aquitia for contempt. The Apex Court has also nullified the execution of the bench warrants issued by Justice Emmanuel Senyo Amadahe following Mr. Kumi's conviction. So as a result, Justice Amadahe has been barred from sentencing Mr. Kumi for the contempt charge. Interesting fallouts from that story. But let's get the views of our guest on this issue. I want to start with you, Haruna.
Yes.
What case are we making here for this Aquitia member of Aquitia MP? I hear you scoffing, so.
I was in court
in
Koforidua when these cases were called. And it's unfortunate that the judge in the case try as much as possible to abandon the processes that were filed by the legal counsel for NS Kumi. And in fact, our lawyer in the case was even refused to be listened to. When he rised in court to announce his representation of NS Kumi, the judge said, "I would not recognize you." He proceeded to inform the court that the processes based on the declarations and the Gazette of the results for Aquitia, the irregularities that is being applied in the processes of the court was not the best. And that these are the steps that the legal counsel for NS Kumi had taken, both at the High Court and also at the Supreme Court. I am not a lawyer, but the lawyer pointed out, even though the judge had refused to hear him and said it publicly in court that I would not hear you, he went ahead to make his case and let the judge know that these are the processes. And you cannot jump the processes and proceed to pronounce your ruling. So there were no arguments in court that day. The judge proceeded because he had already prepared his judgment, made his mind, and then pronounced NS Kumi guilty, and then said he's issuing a bench warrant for the arrest. So I was in court personally.
Okay.
I was in court. He nearly vented his own this thing on me on that very day because I was holding my phones, and then the kind of shout and what have you that was put on me, I knew that the judge was already having something to do. We are very grateful that the Supreme Court has listened and adhered to the processes of the legal process that the legal counsel has put through. I think that justice must be served and justice must be seen to be served.
And that's what you see now from here. Grace, you want to...
Let me bring in Bright here because you are a lawyer yourself. If you follow this particular case, what is the learning from the legal point of view that we should all be getting from?
First of all, I haven't followed the case.
Okay.
So,
do you want a bit of background? This is about it's coming from the election. So on January 3rd, I think the High Court issued an interim injunction and preventing NS Kumi from being sworn in. But he was sworn in. Regardless of that, it became a whole issue. There was a bench warrant and he was picked up on the premises of Parliament. We saw him walking out when it was revealed that there was a bench warrant for him. And so they went to the Supreme Court to injunct that bench warrant, and now this is the fallout that we're seeing.
Oh, and the Supreme Court has pushed that. Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about due process, isn't it? And I'm happy that the Supreme Court has corrected it, but it shouldn't have gotten that far. I guess that's the point. It shouldn't have gotten that far. You know, it's just important that people, I don't know, I wasn't there, I don't know what's on the judge's mind, but it's important that personal views and opinions and things are set aside during, you know, in a court case. All that matters are the facts of the case and, you know, the arguments that are brought in court to support those facts and the authorities which are relied on to buttress those arguments. So I think it will be good if that is followed, and because that is due process. Whenever you introduce personal elements or other elements into it, you get the wrong result. And so for me, I'm glad that the Supreme Court has done the right thing. That's why they're there, actually, because whatever wrongs may or may not have been done in the lower courts are often corrected. If not at the Court of Appeal, then ultimately... Which
is actually what this case is about. There was a U-turn by the High Court judge about not having some reason he gave, and then he had to come back and take back the decision he made earlier, which is what brought about all this uncertainty.
Yes, so we just need to do the right thing. I mean, you know, and set aside personal feelings and all of that.
But Haruna, does the Supreme Court's ruling on this matter bring the case to a close? I guess the substantive matter is there for it to be determined.
Unless I get briefing from Gary Nimaku on this particular case. But the crux of the case is that at the time that the case was filed, there were already preparations for the swearing in of the MP. And the case that was filed before the Gazette of the result. And if you read CI 127, it is very clear when cases of petitions against results of parliamentary should be done. So this was clearly being indicated by our lawyers. So they moved on the same day to go and file an ex parte. So for us, the time limit for the filing of election petition had expired. And
because the results had been gazetted by then.
Gazetted. And before the filing, the results was not gazetted. So you cannot be filing against an election petition when the results has not been gazetted. So it was based on a non-gazetted result. And we pointed it to the judge in the court. And he was referring to a newspaper publication and also a press conference by one of the directors of the Electoral Commission or the commissioners at the Electoral Commission. And obviously that is not the position of the law. And that is why I am very constrained in going into the details of the matter unless I am briefed by Gary Nimaku of the status of the case.
All right.
There was another story. The state's media eyeing financial relief. The Minister for Government Communications is asking GRA and the Ministry of Finance to give them some tax exemptions for state-owned media houses. And what do you think of that? Let me start with you, Victoria Bright.
Well, I can understand why he's requesting that. But at the end of the day, whether the media houses are state-owned or not, they have to compete on an equal footing. You know, that's I guess that's my starting point. So I don't actually know the details of why he's asking for that. What I do know is that all the SOEs in this country, or the majority of them, have not performed in accordance with our expectations as Ghanaians. And I think successive governments have tried to do what they can to look at that. And I know that's one of the things that President Mahama has also said he's going to take a critical look at. If this will help them to get back on their feet and compete with the likes of Joy FM and you know, Metro TV and other stations, then why not? But I don't know whether what he's proposing is a finite help for them or whether it's a continuing thing that he's proposing to them. And it's about resources, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the privately owned institutions have more resources.
You talked about how GBC is in debt and is incapacitated, and there's unsustainable debt, there's some legacy debt. Yeah, I said 18 million. It's actually 13.77 million. Yeah. So GBC owes that much, and so he's asking for some relief so they can also be well equipped to compete with the rest of us.
Well, I think that's in order. That's in order because if they are crippled with debt, then they can't move. And it's important that we do have a state-owned media house. All over the world, people have them. I mean, you know, you have BBC in the UK, and when you look at other countries, they also have state media houses. But it shouldn't stop there. We need to look at why they got to where they are. Because if we don't solve that problem, you're just putting a plaster on the wound rather than actually getting to the core, the crux of the problem. So yes, they have to be, they should be helped so that they stay relevant in terms of media communications in this country. But at the same time, I think that we have to get to the causes and make sure that whatever led to them getting to that point does not happen again.
All right. I can't find this story.
But again, shouldn't this serve as an avenue for us to look into how the whole entity has been managed over the years? Because yearly there are budget that are
Yes.
given. So why are they still owing? Why are we still asking for money to be pumped to them? I agree that we need to resource them, but can we then look at how the entity itself has been managed over the years?
That's precisely the point, yes, that I was making. So I agree with you. We have to get to you can't just put a plaster on it and carry on. You know, we need to get to the core of the problem and travel the journey of how we got to where we are, to make sure that it doesn't happen again going forward. Because it would also be wrong for them to think that, okay, the deck is cleared and we can carry on, you know, business as usual, do the same thing, expecting different results, knowing that, at some point in the future, another government will come and build them again. You know, no, we have to tackle the root of the problem.
I mean, tied to this story is a story in the BNFT, page 8. It says, align strategic plans with national development goals, TECPE to SOEs. And the story is that the President's advisor on the economy, Seth TECPE, has urged state institutions, especially state-owned enterprises and their adjoining ministries, to align their strategic plans with objectives of the National Development Plan. I mean, question is, we've always been telling the SOEs to be profitable. I guess the reason of tying their strategies into the National Development Plan is how they could become of use to the state and how they could be profitable. When do we move from the talk to action to ensure that these SOEs are becoming profitable?
I think that first and foremost, if you look at the call by Felix Kwachi, you need to ask yourself, is the accumulation of the debt for the GVC from taxes? Are they all from taxes?
No. ECG
No.
and NEDCO. The debts, so they
For
all
example,
about...
he's calling for state media.
Yeah.
The tax, the amount of money he's talking about, is it from taxes?
Is it from taxes?
So if it's not from taxes, why would tax exemption solve the situation? We need to apply practical sense of dealing with issues in this country. First, you ask yourself, what is the resultant effect of what has happened? So either you use the fishbone diagram to be able to ascertain and get the problem-solving situation, or you use the Pareto analysis. So if you just sit down and says that they should be given a tax exemption, I know that
let me give you some context. He's saying that the Graphic Communications Group, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, New Times Corporation, and the Ghana News Agency paid exorbitant taxes when they were importing equipment and other inputs, other critical things that were essential to the operations, and that's where a chunk of the money is coming.
I don't know some of these things. Is the state media, who buys the equipment? It's the state. Who does the tax goes to? It's the state.
That's why he's asking for the tax to be waived.
You see, you as a private media pays tax. The government uses it and doesn't give you some. The state media takes government budget, paying tax back to government to get the money back. We say it should still be exempted. We should have concrete management tactics. You see, you cannot overly pamper state media houses. You must ask them to get to work. That is exactly, look, continuously you give the person money and somebody is in the private media getting his own money and paying taxes and doesn't get anything from it. Somebody who gets money from those particular taxes is still continue to be pampered. I believe that we must use our brain to work. I don't think that we should continue to exempt state media on certain taxes and what have you. We should ask them to work and ensure that they are able to compete, because they take budgets, they take money, they take allocations, they take sponsorships. Okay. And they get all these particular things for free. They must work and also be very efficient, effective, and then be able to get productivity working on. In terms of the state organizations that you are, the SOEs and all those things, you see, we have not been able to align practically the issues of development to these particular SOEs. When you take the National Development Plan Commission and previously what they used to do in terms of the building of community action plans, area level plans, coming to the district development plans, and then feeding that into the National Development Plan. I think that if we are able to get the missing link and ensure that whatever the state organizations or the state enterprises are going to do, it must align with the core practical issues that concerns the people. And if that is aligned, I believe that the activities and work of the state-owned enterprises will be able to reflect in the people and be able to get them the needed productivity that they need.
Okay. Still on that, Professor Michael Kwesa-White, who is the Acting Director General of the SIGA, says that, and quote, "We expect a certain level of high performance from our entities," unquote. And he's stressing that non-compliance with the performance contract will be met with sanctions, including removal of the CEO, a board member, or the entire board, and naming those deemed responsible. Way to go?
Yes, absolutely. I am tired of state-owned institutions not performing in this country because they are an essential, they are there to guard our resources. Every state-owned institution is responsible for a key aspect of our national development and resources in this country. And we cannot keep going on like this, where consistently they perform badly and across the board.
Yeah.
You know, we just can't, we can't afford to go on like this because guess what? Hey, the world is moving on. And we cannot, I mean, standing still is actually, it actually equates to regressing. It's regression. And we keep doing this thing over and over and over and over again, and yet we expect the country to move forward somehow, miraculously. So I'm very happy with this. I'm very, very happy with both what the Acting Director General is saying and what Mr. Setekpe is saying. There has to be some alignment. You cannot go off on a tangent and do your own thing. You can't. Otherwise, you know, I don't know whether the what do you call it? The dog is wagging the tail or the tail is wagging the dog. You know, so we just have to do things properly now, and we have to take it seriously. It's not, you know, sometimes some of the people who are put, frankly, who are put in charge of these things have absolutely no business being in charge of those things. Some of them are just not qualified. They don't know what they are doing. Let's be real. You have some very good CEOs and some very bad ones, and then some very mediocre ones, you know, and the bad ones and the mediocre ones consistently let us down. So sometimes some of these things also need to be looked at. But yes, I agree with Mr. Kwesa-White as well. Sack them if they are no good.
Okay. But must they stand alone? Because we know that these SOEs, the same government benefit from their services. And sometimes we hear of they not paying for the services rendered. We know of ECG.
Or interference.
Government will use power and would accumulate a lot of debt.
Yes.
Must we not tie the performance of these SOEs to the government itself, so that government cannot be seen to be isolating itself from the poor performance of the SOEs?
Yeah, there has to be clear KPIs, just as we have in the private sector. Because if you don't have KPIs, you know, people can do what they want. They set their own standards, and they, you know, it's like setting your own exam paper and marking yourself. You know, so there have to be clear KPIs, and also we have to make sure, you know, it's important that we have minimum government interference. I mean, they are state-owned institutions, so there will always be a level of government interference, but we have to look at the nature of that interference and then try and minimize it or do it in a way that will help the SOE rather than hinder them. ECG's case is a whole PhD in itself, you know, of corruption.
It's
yes, it's a whole thesis of corruption. So I don't even know where the containers are still. Those 2,000 whatever.
They found
all of them
yeah.
found. Fantastic. Congratulations.
In fact, more than the numbers reported to have been missing.
Oh, there were more. Oh, wow.
I think with regards to the ECG containers, there were some misinformation or disinformation around the whole thing, because the numbers kept changing along the line. The first time we heard about it was a different number. The second time was a different number. Then the committee went into it, brought us a different number.
Right.
The committee I think there was another committee to look into that particular work. They go and say, oh, no, we've found the containers. And the number is exactly so.
But at the crux of it, there has been serious collusion and corruption. Yes. So as we said, another topic for another day.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we'll all agree that that's a whole thesis in itself. You know,
Aaron, I know you want to say something before we go to one last.
People were much interested in trying to own the containers. So they decided to create that propaganda around it. But
you think it was propaganda?
No, but they are found. Is anybody prosecuted? Have we been given explanation?
That's a question we need to
why it went there and why did those people pick it? Look, they must be answering these questions to us. Why the misinformation? Why the underreporting and all that? We should be able to know. Clearly, we should be able to have some briefings on that. And if you talk about...
But Haruna, like, to be frank, some containers were found at certain places.
So
it tells you that there were some movement.
There were even foreign nationals.
Move there? Yeah. So how did it move there? Let's get it. Let's track it.
Corruption.
And let's get it. Because if this was not blown, and if searches were not done, this would have become properties of individuals. So we must be able to get to the bottom of the matter. And I'm very happy that Madam has mentioned about this ECG old matter. You know, you and I, everybody, we pay electricity bills. Government comes out to tell you that the cabinet has granted an exemption to some critical institutions. Government at this point should not be granting exemption. Government should be taking responsibility. Those people will consume power. You've granted them exemption. Once you grant them exemption, the power they consume, who is going to pay for it? They will shift the incidence of the consumption to us. As citizens, government is not indicative in that exemption of how they are going to pay for it. But the people will continue to consume power. So how are we going to? The payment of all the consumption that they have done will be shifted to us as consumers. And I don't think that...
But Haruna, in the dying embers of your government, you were seeking to give exemptions to some, how many is it? A number of companies. How is that different from...
I am not aware. We have not given exemption. I am saying that...
No, hold on. It wasn't Parliament. It was just because Parliament was not, Parliament didn't get it through.
We went for meters, prepaid meters for every government institution.
Okay.
That was what we proposed.
Oh, so yours is specific to power?
Power.
Okay.
Power. They should go... What I am saying, I have the letter here. Cabinet granting electricity bill exemption. I'm very, very curious on this particular matter.
Oh.
If you are yes.
Oh no, they listed. They said, for example, schools.
No, are they going
even in the schools, they gave specific places where these exemptions
that is in the West. Go to the hospital. They've granted the blood bank an exemption. The blood bank is in the whole building. Let's say this is the building.
Yes.
So the whole building is wired, and the blood bank doesn't have its own meter. How do you exempt it?
This is a story from MyJoyOnline.com, and it's November 16, 2023. Minority Caucus accuses government of giving 5.5 billion Ghana cedis worth of tax exemptions to 47 companies. I just heard you say you never...
No, I'm talking about electricity bill. I am talking about electricity bill because I am concerned. Okay. There's theft in power. There's so many things going around there. The government institutions who don't pay are the cause of the high electricity bills. And that is why the previous government said that they should use prepaid meters. If the current or the power finishes, you would have to be forced to go and buy. But in this case, we are told that they should consume. They shouldn't pay. How is government going to pay? The cabinet approval did not indicate, meaning they will consume the power and they will shift it to us to pay. And that is why we will have high electricity tariffs and consumers will be very worried.
Suti, just before you move on, you have a question for him?
No, I have another story.
Okay.
That contests what you're saying. No, because I remember there was an argument about this. I just want to get the details.
Oh, don't worry.
And this is saying that my new policies will help eliminate VAT on electricity. But although I've not got to the actual detail here, let me just read this. Yes, the NPP government, specifically under Akufo-Addo administration, implemented a tax exemption for electricity consumption. I want to get to the actual story, and then I'll come back to it.
No, the exemption we did for electricity was during the COVID time. We did exemption.
So don't say that you never...
For Ghanaians. not state enterprises.
Okay.
For Ghanaians.
Who are
and
the
even
ones operating the state enterprises? I just want you not to
the
make a
district
blanket
assemblies,
statement
the
like
district
that.
assemblies,
That you never
the,
gave
dis,
that
the district assemblies. What we did, we gave to the people of Ghana. We gave to the poor. We gave 100% to those who were consuming below a certain threshold. We gave 50% to certain families who were consuming to a certain threshold. We gave to the people of Ghana. We gave to the ordinary citizens because of COVID.
And that's what your
but in this particular,
did.
yes.
So when this administration decides to go another way,
the
tangent they are going is worse.
says go.
Myself and you will pay more power.
Okay.
Because the people are being asked that they should not pay for power, but they will consume power. Who is going to pay for it? Okay. Government cabinet approval is not indicative of how they are going to pay for the power.
Okay. So yours is about making the state enterprises profitable, but government...
Yes, government takes responsibility.
Okay. Now, someone who's watching us says they use their politics to mess up the media houses. Government doesn't buy equipment for the state media houses. It says the media houses don't take support from government. They pay their own salaries, and he names one media house, and pay dividends to the state. So
I disagree. Let me give you one example.
The person is bringing in.
Let me give you one example. Radio Savannah in Tamale. It's a GBC station. You know Makoyongo. Makoyongo, when they were importing the equipment for Radio Savannah, which was a GBC station, added his own. You know, he went before Public Accounts Committee. And that was where, you remember the word, I cannot remember. That was where he used it.
Okay.
His equipment were added to the government, the equipment that was imported for the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Radio Savannah in Tamale. If he says government doesn't buy equipment for state owning, I disagree.
So the thing is, we have to move on and spend the time and get many stories in as possible. So there's this story on myjoyonline.com. I'm sure we'll populate it on the screen for you, but I have the actual details of that statement in the daily graphic. So I'll summarize it for you. So Zoomlion wishes to clarify the following for the general public, media, or stakeholders about information circulating in the media, public domain, about the contracts. One, contracts simply reached natural expiration. It wasn't cancelled. It died a natural death. That's what they're saying. Secondly, they're saying there's full support for competitive procurement. The letter from the presidency highlighted that the government intends to implement a competitive procurement process. They are saying they're in full support of that. And so that's what you're seeing on your screen right now. I'm just summarizing. And the third point they're making is that they're committed to their workers and their sanitation goals. They say that they are commending the government's stated objective for improving the remuneration of sweepers and frontline sanitation workers as part of the ongoing sector reforms. They have no qualms with that. And they're welcoming accountability measures and reaffirming commitment to Ghana. They go on to say on the Pan-African recognition, their Pan-African recognition underscores their impact. Of course, they've been helping Ghanaians clean our streets for nearly 2 decades now. So they're saying that they have some recognition which speaks to their impact. And finally, and let me just read this, in alignment with the reset agenda of the government of the President John Dramani Mahama, focused on rebuilding equity sustainability, Zoomlion Ghana reaffirms its steadfast. So basically, they're just committing. They're saying nothing controversial. I don't know who exactly said that the contract was terminated. I think the rhetoric, everything I've heard so far is that it died a natural death. So this is just some clarification on that. But let's get into the meat of that story proper. There's issues of overbilling, taking about 800 and something Ghana cedis from government and paying the workers 200 or 300 Ghana cedis something. There are issues about value for money and so on and so forth. Actually, we'll engage Manasseh Azuri later on the show, so you want to stay with us for more details on that.
But Victoria, if you listen to Manasseh, he says Zoomlion bills the state for 45,000 people. But when they last did a head count under the actual government, they only got 38,000 people. So why have we watched on for this? Why do you think we've watched on for this to continue?
Well,
45,000 and 38,000, that's like 7,000 more difference, right? If my mathematics is right.
You know, I guess I have to start off from the place of a monopoly. Because Zoomlion has, enjoyed a monopoly in this country on waste management for a very long time.
Yeah, close to 20 years.
Yes, and sometimes monopoly brings complacency. And when complacency occurs, people do all sorts of things and get away with it some of the time. Now, why should there be, if it is the case that 45,000, people were being paid for by government to Zoomlion, that's the bill they were billing us, all of us,
Yes.
effectively, and yet the actual numbers were around 38,000,
yes.
then clearly the same ghost name scenario over and over again. I mean, what is it with us? I mean, why can't we just do the right thing? So I don't know what the actual facts of this are, but I do know that the Fourth Estate is a very reputable organization, and I have to commend them for the work they've been doing.
This is actually Manasseh Azul,
Exactly,
not
yeah.
Manasseh himself.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
so
started
Manasseh,
doing that when he was at Joy News.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Manasseh, on all these things that you're doing. I think it's a yeoman's job, and thank God someone is doing it, But yeah, if that is the case, if that's proving to be the case, then clearly, I mean, we have no business keeping a company that is siphoning money from the state. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, because no court has pronounced them guilty.
Exactly, yes.
But I'm saying that if that is the case, then I don't see, why we should renew. And I actually commend the president for terminating it, if that is the case.
Okay, so the word is not terminated. It died a natural death. I won't renew
not
it.
renewing it, letting it die a natural death, and not renewing it, and then saying, okay, I'm going for regional competitive bids. I think that's what he said, to break the whole thing down, and everyone is allowed to bid. I don't think they've been prevented from bidding, so they can also put in their bid like everyone else, and then we'll take it from there. But honestly, if it is the case that what Manasseh is saying, if that's proven to be the case, then they shouldn't bid.
Okay.
At least they now have contracts all over Africa, thanks to Ghana.
Yeah.
So, it's not like they're going to go out of business or anything. So,
but let me still stay with you and help us understand this. We know the contract expired actually last year, but we've still held on. We still pay them. Is it normal in contractual terms that when a contract expires, we can still hold on to it and be paying them for the work done?
I mean, look, when your contract expires, it depends on the terms of the contract.
Okay.
Because sometimes you can have fixed-term contracts, you can have open-ended contracts with termination provisions built in. And you can also have rolling contracts that if they expire, as long as nothing is done, it keeps going on.
Okay.
So it depends. I don't know what the actual details of their contract says, but if it is the case that it's been terminated or the contract has naturally expired and there are no extension provisions, then question mark, why is the state, or why did the state continue to pay them and not do anything about it? Okay. I mean, were they in talks to renew, or they just left it and just kept paying?
So from the education I've had over the weekend, through Manasseh, even some time ago, before Justin Kodia became the boss of YEA, the contract expired for like 2 years or so, but they were still on.
No,
so I think it was
a 19-year contract.
Maybe it depends on the terms, as you've explained.
Right.
Whether there's a rolling, even if it expires, we'll roll it until something happens or whatever.
I think I'll be able to help. I've worked with Justin Kodia.
Okay.
I've worked with YEA, and I know more about this particular contract.
That would be
I think
helpful.
that Manasseh's point is that the sweepers are being underpaid.
Yes.
Yes.
And he thinks that the terms in the contract for the management fees and what is given to those who are sweeping on the street is something to write. It's nothing to write home about. It cannot take them home. That is Manasseh's core point. Yeah. That you cannot give so much to
an entity,
and very less is given to the person that takes away, does execute the work. And I think that Manasseh has done this very consistently. During our time, Manasseh's work had helped my boss, my current boss, the general secretary, who was the CEO, at that time to be able to revise the terms of the contract.
He mentioned.
So, in fact, the contract is not a long-term contract. It is a contract that has terminal expirations.
Okay.
And at any point in time, you have the opportunity to revise and renew the contract. So payment systems were moved from one stage to the other. I cannot remember the amounts, but I know that before we left, it was the payment was somewhere 258 or so Ghana cedis too. But when we came, it was 80 Ghana cedis that were being paid to the people. So, but still, Manasseh still found that he thinks that the money that is paid to the people is still less. So, as at March 2024, the MPP government refused to renew the contract. The point here is renew.
Yeah.
So the proposal that were put across was that we needed to have a competitive tendering so that anybody at all who has the requisite qualifications to do sanitation business can also apply. So in the current circumstances that the NDC government is putting through was the reason why in September the contract was not renewed. And in fact, I can tell you that there were processes that were put through to ensure that other companies comes in and it is put on regional basis. We had meetings, management meetings on this matter, and that was why the contract was not renewed. So indeed, the contract got expired in March, and then it was given an extension because of concerns. You know, there were reports in the media cycles about sanitation issues that could cause cholera and other issues. So an extension was given to the contract, but the government refused to renew it further and insisted that something must be done with regards to the management contract and the fees that are being paid. And if you check what he was taking, it was in the terms of the contract.
I mean, I think I just want to move your submission forward because you've spoken on the sweepers' fees.
Yes.
But there's also the issue of the overbilling, where there's discrepancies between the number of people they're charging for and the actual number of people who...
Yeah, we continue to do audit. We continue to do audit on several instances. And I cannot speak directly to the figures. If there are ghost names,
In fact, Manasseh mentions that audit was done by Justin Kodria.
Yes.
He found that.
We did.
When they did
So he realized
when they did the audit.
We did.
So what did they do about it?
We did.
Exactly.
We did.
Good
We did audit.
question.
So on those particular matters, I'm unable to speak to them because, you know, these are terms of contract. And whilst there are names and that are not found on the ground, I think that management were taking decisions on some of them, either to get them replaced or what resulted in them not being counted. So there were reasons that were given by regional directors and district directors as to why some of them could not turn out.
Okay.
But indeed, there were variances. Because I was a regional director, there were variances. And if I can remember, the number that I used to have was 1,141.
But the difference that you're talking about is in the tens of
Yes.
thousands.
Yeah.
So, and after the audit, I could see that the data that was brought back to me, I was not seeing the required numbers as it is, as at the time that I did the data collation and the employment processes that were done. So there were discrepancies, and I think that management were dealing with that. And some of us were not happy at that time with regards to the discrepancies because these are families who were dependent on this very meager amount that Manasseh has been fighting for, but they were terminally being put off because they were not part of the head count. So it is for us to interrogate it and do a proper audit of the systems. And
But Victoria, must we, because I remember when I was young, the assemblies had these people
Town council.
employed by them.
Call them tangas.
I remember a man that used to live by a house. He was part of those who were sweeping the streets.
Yes.
Must we have a company managing these people when the assemblies can really employ people and pay them the same monies that were
But
given to
it's
someone?
not only the 1 year work that Zoomlion does.
Yes, we understand. Yes.
A lot of
Literally-
work
Yes.
for the assemblies.
Yes, but I mean, I think it should be broken down. That's my starting point. Because clearly, I mean, I'm concerned about the fact that an audit was done and there were these discrepancies and nobody seems, I want to know what was done about it. Because if something was done about it, then by now it should have been resolved. You know, if it hasn't been resolved, then why has it not been resolved? Why must we consistently have these situations? And why must we consistently just talk about them and forget about them? So what was done about it? That's what I want to know. And also, how can you pay someone 250? Is that their monthly? Is that per month?
Yeah, that was.
I mean, how can anybody live on that? So they are just turning up to work because they can't just get up and stay at home. I mean, it's just cruelty.
Yeah.
It's cruelty. I mean, you know, come on. I mean, it's just inhumane to pay somebody. And you said it was even 80 cedis before.
Yes.
I mean, how can you? I mean, oh God. Honestly, well, where is our fellow feeling?
Yeah.
I think
And
that
Zoomlion is not a poor company. So why are you mistreating Ghanaians? It's equivalent to mistreating of our people. And stop it. These are people who have children, who have families to take care of. So how can you look at somebody, a grown woman and a grown man, with a wife or a husband and children who are in school, etc., and pay them 258 cedis.
And that's
when you are
what
being
it
paid
from
800 cedis or whatever. I mean, stop it. Stop abusing our people. It's too much. Let's treat each other properly and with some respect and decorum, please.
But I think that we shouldn't leave government out of this because they're only executing a contract.
But how much was government paying them?
Exactly, 200 and something cedis. That's what we need to correct.
Government was paying the 200 cedis.
No,
I think government was paying 800 and something.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but in the contract,
in
the contract, that 200 and something is supposed to go to the sweepers. That's why Manasseh says the contract is not good.
So the contract, so government knew how much was being given to them.
Well, you were there.
Then I'm very happy.
We are hanging Zoomlion. It is the
extended.
contract, not Zoomlion.
Yes, that's
it
what
is
I
the
mean.
contract,
No,
not Zoomlion.
hang on. It is both.
Exactly.
Because
All of them,
if
the two of
government
them.
is saying that I'm giving you, how much is government paying? 800 or
800
something?
yes.
And you are giving 258. And first of all, there's something very wrong there.
Yeah.
And you're allowing it to stay there as 250. And government is also looking at the 258 and saying, oh, it's okay, pay them 258. I mean, what are we doing here in this country?
So both parties have not been fair.
Yes, both. That's what I want to say.
If you look at
So I'm glad that it's coming to an end.
Right.
Because you cannot, it's just mistreatment. Stop it.
Yes or no, and then we move on to another
But
important
can
story.
I add this to it because
I really congratulate the
Victoria
president for
was
doing it.
asking for
It's terrible.
the various
We
contracts
stopped it
that
first.
they have.
And insisted.
According to Manasseh, you know when the containers that we left, where we dumped the rubbish and then they left, that's one different contract. Then there is the dump site management, where they will go and put that's also another different contract.
Oh, I see.
Then there is fumigation contract as well.
So there are three heads of contract.
And all is with the assembly.
Yes,
It's only the supers
And it all
that is
borders on sanitation. Wait, you gave me that context. So the question is, over or nearly 2 decades of Zoomlion in operation, taking care of sanitation in this country, how would you assess them? Have they done a good job, would you say?
If you ask me, he's a great entrepreneur. Sanitation issues are very critical to all of us. No matter what the contract says, how the people are being catered, Zoomlion has also created much impact.
Value for money. Would you say that we got value for money?
Unless I do a very proper audit for that, I cannot sit here. I have had issues with the contract, just as we are explaining, because the contract is executed between two persons. You sit down to agree on prices, and the person moves on to implement what you have agreed. And if he does so and you don't agree, you can call back the contract because there are always clauses for you to call back and then renegotiate some of the terms of the contract. And that was why the former government has stopped the contract and had renegotiated some part. And then even the same thing, Manasseh still finds that the cost, the cost are still low. So I think that for value for money, I cannot straightforward answer that. But Zoomlion has also created something. We
did a series last year, Filth Exhibition.
Yeah.
Almost everywhere I went to speak to people, they tell you, we have no bins. So it was a problem. So there are sweepers, they were in charge of putting bins at vantage points so that people can pour their rubbish inside so they come and take it. That was not happening. And so if you look at the number of issues that plagues the whole sanitation issue around this country, I don't think that they did as much as they could have done for us.
Is it,
you know,
Shruti, if you go
as much
there,
as they could have done. Because I went out there, I can't give them a number. But I went out there and spoke to people where Zoomlion was supposed to have bins, and the bins were non-existent. Where people were supposed to come and sweep our streets, the market, they were not there. And so the entire series, Coach, I don't know if you went out yourself.
Oh, yes.
Exhibition. But it was always no bins, no sweepers. We are paying, people privately to come and pay for us. Some of the things on you.
Now, Sweetie, the thing is that some of the assemblies spent extra money.
Yes.
To lift these containers that Zoomlion was being paid to lift. Because the refuse, piles up so much that the assembly cannot sit there and watch on. They have to
as much as I can't give you a quantitative assessment, I can give you a qualitative assessment.
Because I've been on
the ground. With what my eyes saw, they could have done more.
But yeah, they could have done more. But Sweetie, if I come and pay for 1 hour to do a program, and the program gets interested, and then 1 hour we cut off, people get dissatisfied, will you blame Joy? You will blame the person who goes to buy the 1 hour. Okay? If government says Zoomlion produce 20 bins, and he produces 20 bins and you need 1,000 bins, can you blame Zoomlion? So it's not about Zoomlion providing everything the people need. It's about government providing what the people need.
Okay. Kojo, there's another story about Iran. You want to take us there?
So this issue between Iran and U.S., we understand is resulting in the petrol price on the international market rising up, which of course will then, cause increment in the price of fuel. But it says Israel-Iran war, how this will, but in November 2022, global shocks pushed pump prices in Ghana to record highs. Diesel hit 23 per liter, 23 cedis per liter, and petrol was 17 at Gov't stations. You remember those times. Now, the government blamed the Russia-Ukraine war, igniting a debate that continues to this day. History may now be repeating itself with blame shifting from Europe to Middle East. On Friday, June 14, Israel launched unprovoked airstrikes on Iran. The targets included senior military officials, nuclear sites, and missile infrastructure. The assault follows nearly 2 decades of Israeli warnings over Iran's uranium enrichment, which says it is central to a nuclear weapons program. And I watched some of the videos. Look, goodness me. So are we about, on our news, in the business news, COPEC was asking government to store crude oil in the wake of this so that they could help avert the impact of it on the Ghanaian. Now, I mean, what must we do to ensure that this does not happen again? 23 cedis per liter, as we saw, because of the Ukraine-Russia war. That was too much. Victoria, let me start with you.
Well, there are always going to be exogenous shocks, in these situations, in economics, I guess. I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes you have black swan events, and when that happens, there's nothing you can do, like this. I mean, so it's important that we protect ourselves as much as possible and not to erode in the gains that we've had in the city. Because if that happens, it affects all of us. We don't want to go back to 17 cedis per liter or 20 cedis or whatever. We really don't, because it affects everybody, from the kinky seller to the person, the executive sitting in their air-conditioned office. So I think the central bank, the Ministry of Finance, and the Energy Ministry, will, together with the presidency, will have to work together to shore up our reserves and just do whatever they can to protect our currency.
Tied to that is that 1 cedi fuel levy that has been postponed.
So
minorities saying cancel, don't postpone. How does that even, I mean, the context of what we're seeing right now, since we are not immune to global shocks, where do we even begin to see lights with this 1 cedi levy? Should we completely throw it away?
Well,
because we can't control the market?
Well, I think the underlying reasons why the 1 cedi levy was introduced are still there. The fact is that the 68 billion won't go away. The fact is that this year we have the discrepancy of 1.2 billion, etc., and it's growing. So these things are still there.
So we still need the one.
We still need something. Yes, we still need it. Okay. What I would say, though, is that I'm happy that the president has been proactive in addressing this, because if he had then brought the levy in or made it effective, operational, it would have affected us a lot because of what's happening outside our control. So whether it's going to be parked or whether it's going to be reintroduced, I guess the jury is still out on that. But we do need, if I mean, the minority is saying don't do it, but what is the solution? You know, I mean, when I was working for President Kufuor, you can't just say you can't do something. You have to come with a solution.
Actually, they have. They've proposed a number of solutions. You're talking about moving from thermal to renewable sources of energy.
Oh, but
they had a press conference. I remember they listed a number of things.
I mean, renewable energy, yes. That's where the world is headed, right? But it takes time to put these things in place. And I don't know whether we can ever get into a situation, and I'm talking not just about Ghana, where the only source of energy is renewables. I mean, that is unrealistic. And even if it's going to happen, it's not anytime soon. And look at the stock of renewables that we have. I guess thermal is not even enough. I mean, most of our thing is still, you know, so it's still liquid fuel. So we just need to be a bit realistic and look at things within our context and do what works for us as a nation. Because sometimes things look good on paper, but the implementation of those things, there has to be a sense of realism. And it's fine to have objectives. It's fine to have things that we aspire to and work towards those things. But between now and when we achieve those things, the reality is still there, you know.
You know, maybe someone is asking, how will the Iran and Israel war affect us? The reason it will is that when you watch the bombings, some of them are directed at the oil and gas installations. When that happens, it means that they are depleting their stocks, and that would obviously affect prices, because then there will be less supply on the market with much more money chasing it.
Ezekiel, even if they don't target the oil fields, global supply chain will be affected. Movement of crude and what have you. And this has come to expose the NDC, that when we were talking about the Russian-Ukraine war, that is affecting global supply chain and other matters that were being confronted the nation, and that caused prices of items, just as you have mentioned about the 17 and 23. This was as a result of shocks. They said that it could not. Today, they are speaking the truth and telling the people of Ghana in their face that this will affect prices and what have you. I want to disagree a bit that the president was proactive. The president was reactive. Reactive in the sense that he had the opportunity to work for 3 months on a budget that was prepared for him. And he had the opportunity to study all the government agencies and departments and to put forward a budget. He had the handset to know the debt that is accumulated to every public institution. And the president, in presenting his budget to the good people of Ghana, did not in anywhere in the budget indicated of that one Ghana city. The government was fully prepared for his revenue, how he's going to raise his revenue. Everything about that budget was being prepared and submitted. The one Ghana city is an afterthought. It's a reactive situation. It is a situation that is embedded on lies, propaganda, and making sure that they are putting hardship on the people of Ghana. We have said that they were celebrating that because of the CD, because of that. Now the CD is still the same what it is. But because of the world crude oil prices, it has changed. When we were there, and the amount of money that when we were leaving power, how much was it? It was 14 point something cedis. How much was crude in the international market? It was 80.53. How much is crude when the price was reduced? 64.5. So they should begin to be speaking. Let's take away the politics in oil pricing and let the people understand. The city is still the city, but the fuel is doing what? Today, as we said, it will go up by 9%. Diesel will go by 8%. Why is the government not telling us the truth? For me, the one Ghana city is a short chain. It's a clear robbery on the people of Ghana.
Well, the GRA has suspended the implementation. It was to kick in, but they've brought another letter to say they have postponed the implementation date to.
Yes.
They said another appropriate date to be communicated. So we'll look forward to that particular date.
There's one last story we will get in.
Debate when it happens.
Yeah, we are waiting for them. So, Attorney General Dominic Ayine wants trade law for pressure, and this is coming from Deputy Attorney General defending the integrity of the prosecutions. And these are all fallouts from the updates that they've been giving us. But speaking on Joy News' PM Express on Wednesday, Dr. Sremsai declared that Dr. Ayine, quote, will not trade anything for the position of the law. And in a wide-ranging conversation, he said he accepts the appointment with a clear understanding of the weight of the public expectation. I felt the weight of the expectation of Ghanaians upon my appointment, he said. But one thing that made me happy about it was my boss. I think I keep hearing about how he's a good lawyer, a man with great integrity, Dr. Ayine, the Attorney General. And people do defend his integrity until he took this position. And now it looks like every turn he takes, someone has a ball of sand waiting to smash on his this thing. Haruna,
yes.
What do you make of this? So, to wait, they're saying that everything we're seeing right now is done according to the law. There's no witch hunting. There's no vendetta here. You can talk about should I call it a manhunt for Ken Oforiatta? You can talk about some raids that we are seeing. Everything according to the law, and he will not trade that for the pressure coming in from either the minority or from the general public. Take a bite at this.
The Attorney General is a good lawyer. I cannot take it away from him. He has prosecuted a number of cases, and I think that we must give him that respect. But in his role as Attorney General today, I think he has allowed himself to be used for political gain. Up to today, he's interested in protecting the public purse. People were arraigned before court under prosecution. He came, the first thing he did, listening to his political paymasters, he went and discontinued those cases. Again,
okay,
lawyers...
He gave us some reasons as to why those cases. In fact, I remember him saying that as a lawyer, in good conscience, he cannot continue to prosecute those cases because of there was really nothing there to prosecute. But the way you say it, as if he just got an order somewhere and then he went down and went to say, okay, let's discontinue these cases.
Lawyers were prosecuting the cases in court. Does that mean that those lawyers didn't know what they were doing? These persons that have been free, ask yourself, are they not members of his party? Why did he discontinue them? Somebody in his party, the Maslock CEO, former Maslock CEO, is being prosecuted and found guilty. They are not looking for her to come and face the charges. They are looking for somebody who is not well, who is responding and making sure that he avails himself to accountability. Somebody has been charged. Nobody is putting the person
Unfortunately,
on the red
Kojo, that's our time. So maybe you can engage Vicky.
Yeah, so you see, the Attorney General is a good lawyer. He should stop prosecuting his case in the media and go to court.
Vicky is also a lawyer. So
yes.
Vicky,
yes. Dominic Ayine is a very good lawyer. That's, let's not be confused about that. And I think, I don't see anything wrong with what he's doing. I really don't. From a legal point of view, taking the politics out of it. Because for me, it's about the rule of law and following the letter of the law, And this thing about going to the press.
Yes.
This thing about going to the press, has he got the right to go to the press, special prosecutor, attorney general? I say yes. It's new for us. It's new to our jurisdiction. But when you go elsewhere, they do it all. Prosecutors do it all the time. Yeah. So for me, really, the question is not about going to the press or whatever. It's about doing it within the confines of the law. That for me is what is paramount.
All right. That's that That's all that time will allow us
lawyer,
to do. And
he should go to court, get his case done, win the case and come and brief us.
We're actually expecting Mustafa Monday, but
continuously. He's done it more than 5 times, no court.
Please take notice. And so those who join us for the news review this morning, Vicky Bright. Vicky Bright is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and former legal advisor to former President Kufuor. We also had Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. And gentle reminder that the conference, the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management Ghana, presents the CIHRM 2025 conference on June 18th to 19th, 2025 at Alisa Hotel in Accra. The theme is Regulating HRM in Ghana, Standards, Ethics, and Sustainability. These are the conference rates. If you're a member of CIHRM, you're paying 3,200. Non-members, 4,000 Ghana cedis. Student members, 2,000 Ghana cedis. You want to register now via the CIHRM website or at CIHRM Ghana on Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. Also, if you want to call for group registrations and discounts, these are the numbers to call. 0243-278-694 or 020-8112. CIHRM, Transforming Work and Workplaces. Samuel Kojo Brace will tell you about the Institute of Design and Technology.
Now, are you looking to do things differently to level up your skills and get ahead in this challenging job market? Statistics show it's tough out there for university graduate with only a few landing jobs immediately after school. Doing things differently is what the Design and Technology Institute, DTI, is all about. DTI offers programs ranging from precision welding and fabrication, design innovation, graphic design, sound engineering, animation, photography, amongst others, and entrepreneurship. Our programs are internationally recognized by the American Welding Society, Pearson, BTech, and CTVET, so you can shine here in Ghana or anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to do things differently and chart your path, check out DTI. Visit dtiafrica.com/admissions or call 0541-693534 for more information. DTI, all rights reserved, including the right to reproduce or use this material or any part thereof in any manner. This is still the AM show. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more. Please do stay with us.